Headline: Guangzhou experts. Omicron toxicity is very low. People can go to the pharmacy and get drugs used for the common cold. It's a tale of two Tylenols. Yesterday the rule was go to the pharmacy and get some Tylenol or cold medicine, and they take all your information, they grill you, you get numerous phone calls afterwards, and probably a knock on your door with somebody testing you. 24 hours later, suddenly, go to the pharmacy, stock up on these cold medicines. Omicron is not very harmful. There goes the fencing. It's like just as easily as they put it up, suddenly the government tells them, you can take it down. The truth is, it's all pretty sudden and pretty capricious, and if there's science or logic to it, let's just say it's helped by unrest and tragedy and political pressure. But I don't want to talk about political pressure, not today, not really ever, not on this channel. I want to talk about something I've been thinking about for a while, which is the mentality that has allowed the compliance, but more importantly, the awakening and the resistance. When I first came to Asia about 20 years ago, I was really attracted by kind of a way of life, a spiritual nature that I wanted to see for myself. I was particularly interested in Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism is practiced in Thailand and Laos and Burma and that part of Southeast Asia. And it seemed, from my observations of being there, that there was such a different way of looking at life than we look at, than I looked at and we look at in the United States. I was intrigued. There's all these stories in these developing countries and less affluent countries. You hear of bridges breaking and dozens of people dying, or ferries sinking. Of course, natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis. And with it, of course, comes grief and rebuilding and, what are we going to do and all that. But also with it seemed to come an understanding. And this is how I read Buddhism in this particular area of life and death. Desire is suffering. Wanting things is suffering. Wanting things is suffering. And life is suffering. And there's so many of these little Buddhist aphorisms, like life sucks and then you live. But to dig a little deeper, what I took from that was that there was another side. This is a gross generalization and maybe a Thailand marketing bumper sticker, but the people seemed generally happier. And what I developed in my own kind of interpretation is that... How are you doing? I'm doing great. How you doing? That was great. I love those interruptions. Now, where was I? An outlook of life. Okay, I don't want to say that they're happy all the time. As I said before, there's tragedy, there's horrible natural disasters, but there's just, the small tragedies that follow us through life. Losing a parent, a grandparent, having financial difficulties, whatever you can think of. But one of the aspects that I took from Buddhism, rightly or wrongly, I'm no scholar, is that, yeah, life sucks and then you live. Life is suffering, wanting is suffering. But the other side of the coin is an obligation. And the obligation is you need to be happy. You need to be happy because you know that there's going to be sucky times that come. So be happy and while you can, and then endure and accept and understand when bad times come. So what in the hell does that have to do with my current situation of waking up and seeing that the Chinese government has changed on a dime? Caveat, tomorrow they could change right back. In America, in my America, it seemed like they were the mysterious they, that the society and the culture was trying to wipe out the possibility of something bad happening. And mind you, I'm all for that. I love regulations that, make sure that the air is not too polluted, that the water is not, undrinkable and toxic. I'm all for that. I like regulations. I like the seatbelt law. I didn't like it when I got that first ticket, when it first went into effect, and I just scoffed at it, but I like the seatbelt law. Of course, there's the concept of too much. Too much, wrapping our children in bubble wrap to make sure that they will never get hurt falling off the swing set. When I was growing up in New York City as a kid, my little brothers and I, well, not little, one was older, one was younger. My brothers and I, we would pretty much be set free by our parents to roam the city. I mean, we would be out, like daytime hours, but we would be exploring the city, three little kids, like 6 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old. And can you imagine that happening now in America? No. For my entire life, the situation in America had gotten more and more, let's protect the people from anything bad ever happening. And it got to the point where when I got to Asia 20 years ago, it was so refreshing to see a people that understood that there's no promises in life and bad things happen. And when bad things happen, you understand it, you grieve, you do what you can to get out of the situation, and you get yourself better. And oftentimes you cannot. Serious injury, death, loss of relatives, economic, pitfalls and unexpected situations. That's part of life. The point is that I really felt that there's an understanding here in Asia that that's life. And then COVID comes to China. And I realized I was talking about Theravada Buddhism. I was talking about Southeast Asia, not the Chinese people per se. But I get the feeling that, historically through millennia, the Chinese also had that sense. Of course they did. They've got all kinds of phrases like, you've got to eat bitter. Then COVID comes to China. And, I'm not going to talk about what happened 3 years ago. I just talk about what happened recently. Somewhere along the lines, they decided that they could stop the natural, order of life. Like I said, I'm all for regulations. I'm all for protecting the people. But at what cost, right? And it just hasn't made sense in these past months. Unless you follow China closely and watch my videos closely, you probably don't know that for the past 3 years, up until some months ago, here in Wuhan, life has been back to normal. I mean, I go out to bars, we walk into a mall, things we haven't been able to do recently. And for the most part, for the overwhelming most part, the people went along with it until this month. And then something snapped. It's like people remembered who they are. People remembered that they are just normal people trying to live a life. And why can't we live a life? People decided suddenly, you know what, we can take our own risk. I mean, nobody's saying that the Chinese are suddenly anti-public policy. I would say completely the opposite. This is so much more of a collective society than certainly in the West, certainly in America. No, I just get the feeling that the people here just reached the tipping point, reached the end of their rope, where they couldn't see that cost-benefit analysis made sense anymore. If it's true that life sucks and then you live, they just want to live now. They just want to live. And my students especially. I hear from some of them, not all of them, and I read a lot of posts on WeChat, and they're not doing very well. They're not doing very well at all. They are still locked on campus, and some of them are still locked in their dorm room. There's a chance under this new round of loosening of restrictions that we'll go back to face-to-face teaching next week. I'm always a little bit more hopeful than the reality, but here on a Saturday afternoon where we're suddenly pretty much, freed from, it was so funny. It was so funny. It was just like all these messages come in, and Summer sent me this sign from Beijing. Let me show it to you. It's like, oh, remember what we've been telling you all these weeks? Never mind. It's just Omicron. We can handle it. You can go to the store and you can buy Tylenol without getting a knock on the door and a test and maybe hauled away. Suddenly they're telling us, we need to save resources, so don't get it tested unless you really need to. Oh, this place, you just gotta laugh. I don't know. I feel I gotta keep reminding myself that any relaxation, any changes made today could be totally reverted and restored tomorrow. Everything can change in an instant. And I'm also well aware that anything happening here in Wuhan is not necessarily happening in Beijing, Guangzhou, Xinjiang, anywhere around the country. Situation is always local. Mostly today I just wanted to talk about the spirit, the heart, the life outlook of the people. I really feel there's been a difference. Not so acquiescent, lobotomized, just following what people say just because they say it. I think there's been a reminder that this is their life. This is our life, and it wasn't meant to be warehoused, to be hidden away because something possibly bad might happen. And the flip side is that you've just got to live your life. Be happy, do the best you can, and when the bad things come, you'll be healthy enough to deal with it. And with that, I'm gonna end this video. I really appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate it. If you have a comment, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave your comment below. Press the like button. Yeah, press the like button. And share this video. Sharing is caring. Finally, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, subscribe. All right, take care. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.